They're just being polite, Claire, my younger sister laughed as she raised her champagne glass. Everyone knows Dad built this company because I was worth leaving it to. You've always just been the backup plan. The ballroom erupted in awkward laughter. My father smiled instead of correcting her. My mother looked away. Then my sister held up the leather folder she'd just been handed. The future CEO, she announced proudly. She had no idea what I had already done. My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 36 years old, and I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm a commercial attorney specializing in corporate restructuring. My husband, Ethan, teaches engineering at the local university, and we've built a quiet life together after years of putting everyone else first. Most people believed my parents had only one successful daughter. Her name was Vanessa. She was 3 years younger than me, outgoing, charming, and always the center of attention. I was the dependable one. Whenever something broke, I fixed it. Whenever someone needed money, I found it. Whenever the family was in trouble, they called me, but never thanked me. Growing up, every achievement I earned somehow became Vanessa's story. If I graduated first in my class, my parents praised Vanessa for supporting me. When I earned a scholarship to law school, my mother reminded relatives that Vanessa had always been the social butterfly. When I bought my first home, my father joked that I probably wouldn't have managed adulthood without learning responsibility from watching my younger sister. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. Eventually you stop correcting people when you've spent your whole life being invisible. Dad started Donovan Industrial Supply nearly 30 years earlier. It wasn't a massive corporation, but it employed nearly 300 people across Colorado. Everyone believed Vanessa had helped him grow it. The truth was very different. 8 years earlier, the company had nearly collapsed. A supplier lawsuit, mounting debt, and poor financial controls had pushed it close to bankruptcy. Dad never told the extended family. He was too proud. Instead, he came to me. Not Vanessa. Me. I spent nearly 18 months working evenings after my own job ended. I negotiated settlements, restructured contracts, protected company assets, found new financing, created legal strategies that kept creditors from forcing liquidation. I even convinced a private investment group to provide emergency funding. That investment only happened because I personally guaranteed part of the agreement. If the company failed, my own savings, my own house, everything I'd built, could have disappeared. No one outside a handful of lawyers knew. Dad begged me to keep it confidential. People don't need to know, he had said. I'll make this right someday. I believed him. Years passed. The company recovered. Profits doubled. Vanessa suddenly became director of corporate relations. Her actual job involved attending charity dinners, taking photos for social media, and introducing herself as the owner's daughter. People assumed she was running the business. I never corrected them. Because I believed actions mattered more than recognition. I was wrong. Everything exploded during Dad's retirement gala. More than 200 employees, business partners, and community leaders filled the ballroom. Dad delivered a heartfelt speech about legacy. Then he invited Vanessa onto the stage. He announced she would become the company's next CEO. The applause was overwhelming. Then Vanessa grabbed the microphone. I know some families have jealous siblings, she laughed. Thankfully Claire finally realized business leadership isn't for everyone. More laughter. She looked directly at me. She's great with paperwork though. Even Ethan squeezed my hand beneath the table because he knew how badly that hurt. My father said nothing. Not one word. I stood, smiled politely, congratulated Vanessa, placed my untouched dessert spoon beside my plate, and quietly walked out. No tears. No argument. No dramatic speech. Just silence. The next morning, I called the only 3 people who knew the original restructuring agreement. My attorney, the investment firm's managing partner, and the corporate trustee. Then I asked one question. Is every document still enforceable? The answer came immediately. Every single one. Over the following 2 weeks, I never contacted my parents. Instead, I updated beneficiary instructions, reviewed voting rights, activated dormant contractual clauses, transferred several personal guarantees, converted temporary protections into permanent legal positions. Everything had been written years earlier. Nobody had expected I'd ever need to enforce them. Especially not against my own family. 3 weeks later my phone finally rang. Mom. Claire, she began sweetly, your father needs another favor. Of course he did. Apparently a national distributor wanted proof of governance before signing a major expansion contract. Certain investor protections also needed renewal. Without my signature as the original guarantor, several financing agreements would automatically expire. Funny how quickly people remember your importance. Mom didn't apologize. She didn't mention the retirement dinner. She simply said, this affects the whole family. I calmly replied, then perhaps the family should read the contracts. She hung up. The calls multiplied. Dad. Vanessa. My uncle. Even cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly remembered my number. Each conversation sounded nearly identical. We're family. Don't be petty. Just sign. Nobody asked how I was doing. Nobody admitted they had hurt me. They only wanted access to something they assumed already belonged to them. Finally Dad requested a family meeting at company headquarters. I agreed. The boardroom felt strangely familiar. I'd spent hundreds of hours there years earlier saving a business no one even knew was sinking. Vanessa entered confidently. She wore an expensive designer suit and carried herself like the company's unquestioned leader. Dad looked exhausted. Mom refused to meet my eyes. Their attorney started speaking first. We simply need Claire's signature to maintain continuity. I smiled. Actually, I brought a few documents too. The room became quiet. I slid the first folder across the polished table. The attorney opened it. His expression changed instantly. He reread the first page. Then the second. Then removed his glasses. What is it? Vanessa asked impatiently. He swallowed. Claire is not merely a guarantor. I placed down another folder. She also holds the controlling protective voting interest created during the emergency restructuring. Vanessa frowned. What does that even mean? It means, the attorney answered carefully, major leadership changes required her written approval. Dad's face turned pale. I wasn't finished. The second folder documented the intellectual property licensing agreement I'd quietly created years earlier. Several of the company's most profitable operating systems legally belonged to my consulting entity. They had been licensed back to Donovan Industrial Supply for $1 annually. A symbolic fee. The license automatically terminated if governance protections were violated. Which they had been. The third folder contained the investment agreement. Without my guarantee, the funding facility expired within 30 days. The fourth folder contained board minutes proving I had negotiated every rescue agreement. Every signature. Every approval. Every legal protection. Perfectly documented. Nobody spoke. The silence felt heavier than shouting ever could. Vanessa finally whispered, Dad, is this real? He slowly nodded. I never thought she'd actually need these. I looked at him. Neither did I. Mom started crying. Not because she'd hurt me. Because she finally understood what the family stood to lose. Dad quietly asked, what do you want? For the first time in my life. Someone asked instead of demanding. I answered honestly. I don't want revenge. I want respect. I want the truth. And I want everyone in this room to stop pretending I was never part of building this company. Dad lowered his head. I failed you. Those 3 words should have healed everything. But some wounds take years to form. They don't disappear in seconds. The board voted that afternoon. Vanessa stepped down before she officially began. Dad delayed retirement. An independent CEO was hired. I declined every executive position they offered. Instead, I accepted a long-term consulting agreement on my own terms, with clear professional boundaries. No family favors. No unpaid sacrifices. No invisible work. 6 months later the company remained successful. Ironically, it functioned better once personal entitlement disappeared from leadership. Vanessa eventually found a career she actually enjoyed in non-profit fundraising. Away from family expectations, she became a kinder person. Dad started attending therapy after admitting he'd spent decades confusing love with favoritism. Mom slowly rebuilt our relationship, not with grand speeches, but with consistent actions. As for Ethan and me, we bought a cabin outside Denver overlooking the mountains. Weekends became peaceful instead of stressful. I finally stopped answering every emergency phone call. For the first time since childhood. My value wasn't measured by what I could rescue. It was measured by the life I'd built. Looking back, I don't celebrate exposing my family. I celebrate finally protecting myself. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't destroying people who underestimated you. It's refusing to keep sacrificing yourself for those who never noticed your worth. So tell me, what would you have done if your own family treated you like you didn't matter until they needed you? Leave your answer in the comments, and don't forget to tell me what city you're watching from. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.